just on the north side of that possible tornado, but it is going to be moving very, very close, close enough for you to be taking shelter and be in that safe spot. So Wilkes County, we're here providing you some live severe weather coverage this evening. It's the only county in our area that has this threat at the moment, but if you do live in Surry County, I would certainly recommend that you pay attention to this very carefully. And if you have friends, family up that way, make sure they're paying attention too, because you have your own storm system. Let me take a look here up near Dobson. This storm actually is just developing too. I'll pause the radar a little bit. Very heavy rainfall, very intense downpours actually right along I-77, not too far from Dobson. And if we look at the rotation, there's not really much, but there is some. So it wouldn't shock me if we have to keep an eye on that cell as well. Well, this could be a couple busy hours here still, even at this late night hour, mostly for the foothills, as I mentioned. The good news with the rotation here, it's not super tight. It doesn't look incredibly intense, but it's enough for the Weather Service to be concerned about it. So we are the messengers. We're here to keep you safe, and we're here to let you know what's going on. That's that storm in Boomer in Wilkes County, and farther to the south, there's another one near Morganton that's more impressive, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. There's really a mess of warnings going on here, overlapping ones nonetheless. It's confusing to me. I'm sure it's confusing to you. Let's zoom in a little bit more. There's that storm system. We can see it a little bit finer detail now. At every scan, we're getting a little bit more information about the system. If you're in Wilkesboro, you want this to head a little bit to the east because every inch that it gets to the east, the farther away it gets from you. Hard to say at this time whether or not there is a tornado being produced. This is only indicated by radar. It's not been spotted by anybody. Of course, it's pitch black dark and it's in the middle of the woods at the moment. So we are not noticing any reports of anything from this area just yet, and certainly don't have visual confirmation. But it's a radar image that does look concerning, and that's enough for them to issue that tornado warning. So again, this continues for about 15 more minutes. We're going to keep an eye on this, and we're going to let you know what you can do to keep safe. And as you remember, tornado safety, pretty simple when it comes down to it. You want to be in the lowest level of your home. Some good places to go would certainly be a basement. I know a lot of us don't have one, but if you do, that's kind of your best option always. Other things to keep in mind, you want to be away from your top floors. Basement is a really bad thing to do. Interior room, very good. Maybe it's a closet, maybe it's the lowest level staircase or stairwell. Bathrooms are good options if they're away from the outside walls. And the reason you don't want to be near that exterior wall is that flying branches or debris or other things can really just bust through it. We've seen it with several storms where actually you have limbs that are kind of thrust through the outside of the home and they come right there into your neighborhood, and that's not what you want to see, certainly. So this is the situation for Wilkes County you got to take very seriously, and in the meantime, make sure you are getting to that safe spot. Again, not the top of your home, not on the outside by the windows. Outside, of course, not a good idea either. But again, Wilkes County is the one with the warning. Everyone else does not have one. There are some watches at the moment, but only this. I know we have our Chad Silver standing by, just kind of, maintaining an eyes and ears on the newsroom, seeing if we have any information to pass along or good tips for folks who happen to find themselves really in a surprising situation. 11:15 at night, Chad, a tornado warning after a pretty quiet day is not what you want to have on a March evening.
Tim, thank you. Yeah, I'm just going to have them keep that radar up so you can continue to watch this. I wanted to point out something that I thought was interesting earlier and also interesting now is that I'm looking at the Duke Energy outage map right now, and earlier today there were no outages from that system as that cell pushed through, and still at this hour we're not really seeing any outages at this point over in the western part of our viewing area. So that is a little bit surprising to me, because usually when we see these strong storms we will see power outages just that kind of spread as the storm spreads. I do want to elaborate on some of the things that you've been talking about when it comes to tornado safety advice, because sometimes when you get, you think in a situation you would be able to handle it, but sometimes you don't really know what to do. So, if you're in an area where there is a tornado warning that is coming through, in general, it's just really good to get as low as you can. So, Tim, you had mentioned it before, a basement below ground level or the lowest floor of a building really offers the greatest safety. And they say put as many walls between yourself and the outside as possible. Avoid windows at all costs. Tornadoes can actually be obscured by rainfall or come in the overnight hours, which is what we're dealing with right now. So obviously it's hard to see a tornado out there, but do not wait until you see or hear a tornado, because at that point it might be too late. Also, you might have heard some rumors about what to do with doors. Apparently the experts say do not waste time opening or closing windows or doors. It won't protect the structure. You will only waste time and put yourself and others at greater risk. Use those valuable seconds to find a place to get to safety. Tim, obviously you're the expert here, and I'm just more of a viewer when it comes to severe weather, because I assumed that when this storm got through nighttime, that it would calm down. You know, that you talk about the warming of the weather or the cooling of the temperatures at night, that this system would, weaken, but that really seems to not be happening at this point. Do you know why that is?
Chad, it's certainly surprising, and sometimes we understand the weather completely, and sometimes it leaves us scratching our head a little bit. But what we're seeing tonight is actually not the storms strengthening everywhere. They're just strengthening in one particular spot. So I'll pull the radar back up and I'll show you what I mean here, as I'm just getting some info out to our social media followers. But what we're seeing is actually that this storm is part of a cluster, right? So there's a line that's been moving up and down a specific part of our state. We call it the Blue Ridge Mountains, don't we? So right here, we've noticed all night long, there's this line that just keeps forming over the same spots. Our atmosphere today has been spinning a lot. We call it wind shear. And what that means is, if you imagine my hands being the levels of the atmosphere, down at the surface, our winds have been coming in this way. But above the ground, they've been coming in the other way. So there's twisting and spinning going on. It seems like so far, that has not really been enough to do a lot of problems in much of the state or in much of the triad. But these showers over the mountains have had no problem getting very easily organized. All of this is to say that barrier, that topographic boundary, as I would call it, or you can just call it a mountain range, what that's doing is it's actually adding a little friction, and it's organizing that spin in a really important way to help those storms get healthier and stay stronger and last a little longer than the ones that we have had. Ours have just been fizzling out, except for the one over Randolph earlier. These have been getting organized and staying more long-lived, and I think it's the geography that's doing that. Those mountains are really important to our weather. As you know, we talk about the Appalachian Wedge all the time, that cold air getting stuck here. That's a physical boundary that can really influence the weather in sometimes a good way or oftentimes a bad way too. And this seems to be a bad way for parts of our area. So bottom line, there are a couple of tornado warnings here that we need to pass along to you. The only one for our counties is for Wilkes. We see it here just to the south of Wilkesboro. This one is not needed anymore because it's moved out of those counties. Farther down to the south, there are also a few more. Just going to move this in here, don't worry about that. Farther south, we see another storm just near Hickory. So if you have friends, family in Hickory also, they have a tornado warning close by. It's not over the city of Hickory, it's just to the north and west of them. The problem is, like I said, they're moving over the same areas repeatedly. So as that continues to happen, the same people are going to keep on getting warned and getting rained on. There's very heavy rain in these systems, and we've seen a lot of that tonight. Let me pop up some of the rainfall totals estimated. There's been several inches in many cases. You can see, no surprise that there's reports of some flooding in these spots. So let's take a look at some of the estimates. So these would be just barely out of our area, but 2-3 inches of rainfall just tonight, widespread. That's going to create some flooding problems. So that is something that you might be encountering in Wilkes County as well. We're here to talk about the tornado warning, but that's an issue that you're also continuing to see. We have about 10 minutes left on this warning here for you for Wilkes. We're going to continue to watch it for you until things get a little better or get a little worse. But if you're in Wilkesboro itself, let's get you that latest radar scan and go a little bit closer. I'm going to zoom right in tight. That's too much. That's too much. We're going to go back a little farther. So here's the city of Wilkesboro. Let's stop it. So Wilkesboro, North Wilkesboro, this storm actually is just here south. I know we like to play it safe, be cautious, stay in your safe spot, but I feel pretty good about you. Okay, I feel good about you if you are in North Wilkesboro or in Wilkesboro itself. That storm not moving that way, it's moving this way. So it would be moving right here near Delaplane, excuse me. There's Highway 421. Let's zoom in even closer. If you drive to Boone a lot, you drive this road all the time. There's right by the Speedway. We see that 421 corridor. There's Oak Woods, Highway 115 as well. That's the heart of the storm. So it's right here. Your spinning area has been generally right about there. That's your rotation. Let me zoom out so you can see what I just drew on there. There we go. So your rotation is this area. So Wilkesboro right here, rotation right there. It's moving right in this general direction. It'll be crossing right over Highway 421. And what was the other road? I believe it was one something, excuse me.
Tim, while you're looking for that,
115.
I do have a question. I'm curious to know why storms seem to all move in that similar direction.
So like from the southwest to the northeast,
Yes.
Chad? Yeah, so we can definitely talk about that. There's your rotation, by the way. There's your spinning that we talked about, that color going this way, that color going that way, your rotation. So Chad was asking, and a lot of you might notice this as well. In fact, it's true, almost all, I shouldn't say all, but most of our tornadic storms that we see in the triad, they move from southwest to northeast. Usually if and when we're going to get tornadoes, which is not every day, but if we're going to get that, it's usually in relation to a cold front. And the way that cold fronts work in the United States and in our part of the world, our winds go from west to east. And ahead of a cold front, you have overall flow that looks like this. So you're having that warm air push up like this. You're never going to have tornadoes when the air coming in is cold. You're only going to have it when it's going to be warm and humid. So the way that that wind direction works for us is almost always a southwest or maybe a southeast wind, but southwest is the general idea. So this is the prime example as well. Just like most times, like the Greensboro tornado several years ago or others, they're usually moving in this general direction. It's very rare to see a tornado in our part of the country move from north to south. That just doesn't happen very often. But this case is a classic one, you could say, even if it's a little weird to see them in the mountains and not so much here at home. It's also a myth that tornadoes can't happen in the mountains. It happens all the time. It's just not something that we experience a lot or we think about because tornadoes happen to be pretty rare in general. Latest scans here, let's go to the latest warning. This is over Wilkesboro. Only about 7 minutes left here on this warning. We'll see what happens with it, but it looks like there is still some rotation. This might be extended, so if you're in Elkin, Trap Hill, the northern corners of Wilkes County, you could be up next if they hold this together. But the good news for North Wilkesboro, sort of the population center of the county, you are looking to be out of this storm very shortly. It's mostly passing to your south and to your east. Let me see if there are any updates from our weather service partners. It looks like nothing yet, so we're just going to wait and see what happens here. This is from the Storm Prediction Center. Those folks out in Oklahoma, there's actually a center of folks who are really experts in this field, and they're always giving updates on this. They're saying that there is still a threat of tornadoes or isolated strong gusts for about another hour or so in the North Carolina foothills, and that was issued just about 30 minutes ago. So we might continue to deal with this through about midnight or a little bit beyond, but after that we should be in better shape. I was saying at the top of the newscast, part of the reason that I'm a little uneasy still, if you live in Greensboro or Winston-Salem or any places, look how warm it is. This is about the warmest we've been all day. It's the middle of the night. It doesn't seem to care that it's dark. One of the reasons we're so warm is we have these breezy winds bringing and importing the warmth to us, and it's also the humidity. So these dew points are really warm. If you step outside tonight, it's muggy. It's not dry. So the way to make a nice storm is to have a lot of humidity and a lot of warmth right there at the surface. That's what those mountain storms are taking advantage of right now.
Tim, you had mentioned, we'd been talking for the past couple of days about this storm and the timing of it. And the latest that we had heard earlier in the day and also yesterday was that the window was really like a 1 to 7 p.m.
Sure.
What changed that made that window at least push back but also extend?
Yeah, good question. So, on the front side of things, everything was basically in line with that. We did have that storm pop around 4 o'clock earlier in the triad. This has been a surprise for sure, and part of the reason is the cold front itself has been moving more slowly. I can tell you we're absolutely in the clear when that front moves through our area, but it's not been tracking super quickly, and honestly, I don't know the forcing that's creating that line of showers and storms. We have a lot of tools, a lot of guidance. You'll see us show Futurecast. I can show you what Futurecast is showing right now. and it is not showing what is happening in reality. So right now, this is the current forecast. It doesn't exist that it sees those storms. So these are guidance tools, certainly not gospel. We don't always just take them at face value, but in this case, a prime example that sometimes there are still some storm surprises, and this is what's happening. This is the answer key, if you will. This is the real deal, and what we're seeing are more storms popping up at this late hour that may even continue a little past where we are right now. It's certainly not done yet at 11:26. So this is new, by the way, new radar scans. We get a new one every minute or so. So good news, I can definitely send the all clear for you in North Wilkesboro from this storm. That's good. Moravian Falls too, but it is right over Highway 421 now. So the main road that you travel if you're going from Winston-Salem to Boone, this is right by where that old speedway is. Of course, Wilkesboro Speedway, a landmark for our area. That's the center of the storm. Let's see the latest rotational scans. Noticing there are some, some bright colors up against one another. That would be this direction, that would be that direction. That spinning area is right over Call, right over Highway 421, moving toward Delaplane. So 421, then Highway 268, not too far from Klingman as well. That's your general direction. I do want to take a look and use a tool that we have in recent years, and we hate to use it because if we see something of note, it means something bad has happened. We call it a debris detection tool. It's really called the correlation coefficient of the radar. This will mean nothing just looking at it on face value, but I'm going to go back a couple of scans. What I'm looking for on this image is just for any sort of bright yellows or bright blues. If I see that, that can tell us that there's been some damage and debris that's been lofted into the air from a destructive tornado. As of right now, I'm not seeing that, which is good, but that warning was issued about 20 minutes ago. It doesn't seem like anything incredibly strong has happened. There were a couple blips in Alexander County, but other than that, it doesn't seem like we're seeing any confirmed damage from radar. We can confirm tornadoes nowadays just by using that tool. We're not seeing that here, so hopefully there's not a tornado on the ground, and if so, hopefully it's not that destructive, but it is still moving along that swirling thunderstorm, which doesn't even have any lightning at the moment, so it's not a thunderstorm, but that swirling system is still moving in the same direction right there along 421. It's just passing north of it, and it's going to be carrying along closer to Surry County very shortly.
Tim, you had mentioned the colors in your debris map. You said yellow was one of them. It looked like there was yellow on that map, or is that just the wrong shade of yellow?
Yeah, so it's not, you don't just want one pixel or two, Chad. You really want to see like more of like a ball or a circle or something that looks organized. It's very noisy, and it's kind of like, clutter or fuzz on your television when you have bad reception. It's not pristine, let's say, so it can be a little bit messy. We actually only have 1 or 2 minutes left on this tornado warning. Let me see our Weather Service partners if they've given us any updates on their intentions to expand or to go farther with this tornado warning. At the moment, it looks like we are just going to wait and see what they decide. It's expiring right now, but Wilkes County continues to have that threat. I still see the spinning that prompted the warning in the first place. So if it is extended, we're going to stay with you with that threat. And we might have to actually stay and watch the radar a little bit longer because those storms behind it could still be giving us some issues too. So keep an eye on this. This is still ongoing. Wilkes County may not be out of the woods just yet. And Surry County, you would be up next from this storm. It looks like it would not be passing into Yadkin County. It would be tracking up. As I say that, we have a new tornado warning, okay? This one, still one that we're watching, but Mount Airy, Surry County, Mount Airy is under a new tornado warning. So this is a new one. I'm going to switch real quick from our Wilkes County radar to our Surry County radar. This is a new warning for Mount Airy and for Patrick County and Carroll County, Virginia. This is brand new. We're just getting this. If you're in Surry County, your phone should be buzzing right now. This is brand new. We're seeing that this storm is moving through Surry County now at a very decent clip. I'm going to click the warning and get the latest information for you. This is a storm just north of Mount Airy right here. It's moving north at about 45 miles per hour, okay? So we have a tornado warning in the middle of the night. Until midnight. This is going to go through midnight for Surry County now. So we're going to be with you another half an hour tracking this storm from Mount Airy just to the north across the Virginia border. A couple lightning strikes are there as well. Let's take a look at where the rotation is. I haven't seen this part of the radar in a little bit because we've been tracking that other storm. honestly, it doesn't look that impressive to me, but there is a little bit of a spinning motion just here in Mount Airy proper. So let's use a couple of our tools. There it is. There's your swirling motion, inbound and outbound. That would mean this direction and that direction. There's your rotation. New tornado warning for Mount Airy and for Surry County. This is going to be moving north and east. Really, it's already in Mount Airy. We're not giving you any time. Okay, this was just issued, and that means if you're in Mount Airy, if there is a tornado, it's already overhead. So there's not a 5 minutes, there's not a 2 minutes, there's not a 1 minute. It's safe spot right now. There could be a tornado happening in Mount Airy at this time. We hope there isn't. We don't have confirmation of it, but that is the case. Let's zoom in even closer now. To give you a view of this. Of course, you know Mount Airy decently well. There's Highway 52. The small town of Toast is there, Highway 89. Your rotation is in this area. We're looking also at Piper's Gap Road. That's where that rotation is. We're in Mount Airy here. We're talking about the Mount Airy and Surry County tornado warning. Your rotation is right here. That's your swirling motion. That can indicate a tornado problem, and that's what we're seeing right now. Let's go farther to the north here. It's not that far from the Virginia line. It's only a couple miles away. It's about 4 miles away from Virginia here. So we're seeing that swirl just happening. I'm going to use a couple of different tools that we have. That is showing that rotation a little bit closer to town. But bottom line, that storm, it spun up pretty quickly. Let's go back a couple of frames. There's the system. You're hearing a little thunder, a little lightning. If you're in Mount Airy, you're in northern Surry County, I want you to be in your safe spot, that's for sure. Just a couple frames ago, we were saying, yeah, that's really wrapping up decently with some rainfall, but now it added that rotation to it. So this is a tornado warning, which will continue a little bit longer. That storm will be out of Surry in just a matter of minutes. If we put a track on this for you, you'll notice how quickly it's moving away. Let me see the actual speed on this system. This is moving at 45 miles per hour. So just like the Wilkes one, it's moving very quickly. Here is your estimated arrival times as we go farther north. This is into Virginia now. So we're talking about Ararat at about 11:42, just about 10 minutes from now. The Blue Ridge High School at about 11:43 near Ararat, and Carter's Mill a little bit after that. So this is not going to be a long warning. This is a short one. It's moving very quickly out of the area, but be very careful. Another update, let's go back to Wilkes County and see what's going on there. It does appear that there are no tornado warnings any longer for Wilkes County. Don't want to forget about you. There's weak rotation in this general area, but not strong enough for the Weather Service to maintain that. So we've been tracking a couple of storms. One has gotten weaker, another one has gotten stronger, okay? So one weaker, one stronger. We have the Wilkes County storm and we have the Surry County storm. Now, the Surry County is the one with the warning. This Wilkes County one no longer has it. Even still, be careful, be cautious in eastern Wilkes, and same thing up toward Elkin. It is headed your way. Back farther down the road, what could we be expecting later on? There is still a very strong storm that may indeed be producing a tornado near Little River. This has rotation on it too. That could be a new warning for Wilkes County in the coming minutes, but we'll pass that bridge when we come to it. We have plenty else to track for you at the moment. So let's get back up the road to Surry County now as we go back near Mount Airy. The good news is that it's already starting to push out of Mount Airy on the northern side of town. The bad news is that you didn't have much warning for this. That warning was issued right when the storm was over Mount Airy itself. I'll pause the radar. We'll put it back on the velocity scan so you can see where that rotation is. But there's the city of Mount Airy. This is that rotation. So I'll leave that up here for a second so you can kind of soak that in, and we'll see that direction again. The storm is moving this way, so it's moving north, closer to the Virginia line in just a couple of miles. But again, happened pretty fast, that rotation prompting a new tornado warning for Surry County.
Tim, I ask this question often, but it's just so fascinating to me about why the reds and the greens exist, and why what you see right there is bad. Sure.
So a normal situation, Chad has a good question here. In a normal situation, all the wind and a normal day is moving the same direction, or at least a similar direction. So today, notice green is the main color. We should see everything pretty much steadily green. Well, what happens when you have a tornado is it's a spinning motion. It's a totally kind of like the the teacups at Disney World, right? They're always rotating around, but they're still moving in a general direction. This is still moving in this general direction, but there's enough of a backward motion to it where that spinning is happening, where it shows up as saying, uh-oh, this is actually moving backwards relative to the flow. So everything's going this way, but this side is actually not going as fast. So relatively, it's going back. Bottom line, it's our tool that we can use to spot where a storm might be spinning enough to create a tornado. The problem is that just this on its own is not enough to 100% say that there's a tornado there. A lot of times there isn't. But it's the best tool we have in our toolbox to show you where a possible tornado could be, and that's what we're seeing right now in Mount Airy. Again, we mentioned that tool that we use sometimes also, the debris tool, to track whether or not there's anything damaging happening or being lofted into the air. I remember years ago when we were tracking the Greensboro tornado in 2018, we saw a big area of debris in the air, several thousand feet. It was actually carried up all the way to Reidsville. That was a strong tornado. Not seeing anything even remotely close to that here. We're not noticing any damage signatures on our radar. We'll keep an eye on that for you, but it doesn't appear that there's been any damage lofted into the sky, and that's good news. This thing is moving really fast. Mount Airy, you're already in the clear. If you live in the city of Mount Airy, I know you're in the warning still, but I just like to keep it real with you. The storm is north. So that is out of your hair if you live right in the city. If you live a little bit north, right up Highway 104, you are still in the trouble spot. This would be the spot I'd be worried about. So right here along 104, let's name some roads for you. We're at Wells Gap Road, is that what it says? Sorry, Willis Gap Road. Highway 104 as well as the main drag in that part of the area right near the state line, and then we're into Virginia, and we're talking about Patrick County. So that's the spot. Call friends and family if you know them in that area. It is headed toward Ararat, so it's going to be going up into Patrick County, and we're going to follow that right along the line for you as well. Resetting, if you live in Greensboro, you live in Winston-Salem, what does this have to do with me? Is it coming our way? Not really. It's moving northeast. It's not moving east. It's moving northeast. So they're following a line. We would call this training of storms, meaning it's kind of like a train. One cart follows the other, and these are all moving over the same area. It's not good news if you live in Wilkes or Surry because you have more coming. So hopefully they continue to weaken a little bit, but that hasn't really been clear just yet. But not getting any closer to Lexington, Winston, Greensboro, or Asheboro. So if you are sick of hearing me talk in those areas, you can go to bed. That's okay. I would just keep your phone close by. Make sure your alerts are turned on, because if they are, you're going to hear that thing buzz a lot. I remember we were on air earlier today, and my phone just buzzed a lot because I had my alerts turned on. I know I was happening to let you know about it too, but it's really helpful. And at that late hour, you need that to help you stay awake and to get to a safe spot. But go to bed with a plan, go to bed with your phone nearby. But I would say no need to wait up to all hours in the triad. Just stay alert if you can by those technology.
Tim, I'm tracking our Facebook post right now that's streaming you out over the interwebs, and a lot of people obviously have questions, and please feel free to continue asking your questions. I'll make sure to pass along those to Tim as he's able to answer them. But people, the big question right now is, what about this place? What about this place? So the more counties are able to give the all clear to, I think the better a lot of these people will feel knowing that. I've got a couple questions about like Rockingham County. It is one county over.
Sure. But
I mean, it seems as though they look like they're in the clear.
I would love to be able to sound the all clear for everybody not in the foothills. The reason I'm a little hesitant to say 100% that you're never going to have bad storms tonight is because we're still warm and muggy. In all of the triad, we're still in the 70s and humid, which means if any of these storms squeak our way, which they haven't been doing yet, but if they do, they might actually strengthen rather than weaken. Let's hope not. I don't think that's going to happen. That's not what I expect. I would say there's about a 90% chance that you're all clear in most of the triad. So that would include Rockingham, Alamance, Guilford, Randolph, Davidson, Forsyth. Most likely you're all clear. The places that I'm most concerned about over really just the next couple of hours, there's no way this can continue all night, by the way. Surry, Patrick, maybe Stokes, Yadkin, Wilkes, and farther down. These are the spots that have been lighting up. They're likely the spots that continue to do that for another hour or maybe less. So hopefully this will wind down shortly. But again, if you're over in here and most of the triad areas, probably not going to be an issue. but not 100% sure. So in a sense, don't hold me to that, right? I wouldn't say it is 100% all clear. The mountains are all clear because this is the cold front. That cold front is moving in, and once you get that cooler air, you're done. It's just not moving very quickly for tonight.
Tim, I'm fascinated that it might be the National Weather Service, the Storm Prediction Center, that they put out those maps days in advance saying, oh, this is a level 1 area, this is a level 2 area. First of all, how do they know that those areas so far in advance are at risk? And then also, how did they know that our area was at a lower risk than places like the Deep South yesterday?
Really good question. Really good question. So you need a couple of ingredients to make tornadoes, Chad. Number one, you need a lot of warmth and a lot of humidity. You also need very strong winds at all levels of the atmosphere, which you usually get from a low pressure area, really strong one. If we zoom way out, I can show you the differences between us and certainly the differences between us and Texas and us and Louisiana. But here, what we have is that main low pressure area that was over them in the Deep South actually moved really far to the north. So we're a little removed from that. There's less spinning, there's less energy, but also we are not as hot as they were. They had more warmth, they had more humidity. We call it CAPE, which is just a acronym meaning thunderstorm fuel. It's convective available potential energy, but bottom line, you take humidity, you add it to warmth, and see how the air is able to rise throughout the atmosphere. We have very little of that here. Now we have decent amounts of it, but that forcing, the strong motion of the low, it's not really overhead. So this is a marginal setup that honestly this is kind of like a little weather miracle right now that's happening. It's a bad one, but this is something that is not something you see every day. These tornado warnings ongoing at a late hour in March in the foothills and not in the Triad, that's kind of surprising and really something that probably we'll study a little bit more in the days ahead and maybe do a case study on soon.
Can you talk about the days following these tornado warnings? We saw that picture earlier today of somebody that spotted what looked to be a funnel cloud that was near the Guilford-Randolph County line. What does the National Weather Service do now that they see a picture like this and maybe hear of some damage? What is their next step?
They'll always do a storm survey, Chad, and a storm survey means sending folks into the field to see what the damage was like and then rating it. So there are specific wind speeds associated with destroying a brick wall, for example. Very high wind speeds. There are lesser wind speeds that could knock down a dry wall, example. So there are things that they can do to look at and see how strong it was. The problem with a thing like today is, yes, there was the funnel cloud, no reports of damage. And I don't think I'm exaggerating here, but literally no reports of damage. Overpopulated areas. So they're not going to go out and investigate no damage, in my opinion. I don't think that they'll do that. They'll probably just say there was no tornado that we could tell. So in these cases, what we saw in Wilkes tonight and Surry, if we get any reports of damage that come in, which so far we haven't really seen, if that changes and there are reports of damage, they'll go out and look at that tomorrow and then give a rating within a day or two.
And maybe you'd agree with me that one of the indicators of the damage would be power outages.
Yeah.
And right now, there are no power outages.
And that's great news. That's always a leading indicator, right? That's something you see first before we get pictures, and at nighttime you're not going to get pictures unless it's really, really bad. So it's good to see that the power is staying on. I do want to give you a little update. So we have the tornado warning now still for Surry, which actually this is an update. Let's get on this first. Surry County is not in a tornado warning anymore. Mount Airy, you're clear. The storm is out of your area. Now it's a Patrick County tornado warning. The only county in Virginia in the News 2 viewing area. Ararat, Virginia, you are under this tornado warning. Just a couple more minutes. This should be expired relatively soon for you, but the news here, the headline, is that rotation has moved north of the Virginia border. It's now moving toward Ararat, so if you live there, you have that rotation, be in a safe spot. Having said that, for Patrick County, again, I said all clear for Mount Airy. I'm still watching the same Wilkes County storm from before. And it had weakened a little bit. There's no warning on this, but if you're in Elkin, I would still want to be in a safe location. I'll show you a couple scans backward. So see right here, this is when we had the warning on this before, and then it weakened a little bit more. There's still something to it. So there's still a little rotation here near Elkin. If you're in Elkin, and you got woken up by the buzz anyway for the warning, stay in that safe spot. There's rotation your way. This is not a warning, but it wouldn't shock me if that changes in the next couple of minutes as well. So that's what we're looking at there. Again, that warning for Mount Airy is gone, but it continues for Patrick County. Farther south, it looks, could it be? It looks like that warning is gone too. It expired. We're looking at that storm in Taylorsville. So we're just in Alexander County now. Let's go a little bit farther south. Reason we look at this is because it would affect Wilkes County eventually. Not very strong rotation there.
Tim, we just did hear WFMY News 2's Amber Lake reached out to 2 of your weather spotters in Surry County. Both of them say that they have not seen or heard of any sort of damage or anything. So obviously that is great news.
That's really good news. I'm actually getting information from Gerald Hicks, who is a 911 person up in Surry County. He says no issue so far. A lot of thunder, a lot of lightning in Mount Airy, getting intense. This was honestly about 20 minutes ago now. But after that, a little update. He says no issues so far, and that's at the 911 call center, which would indicate probably that there was not a tornado happening that rolled through Surry County. So hopefully that's the case. Better news is on the horizon here. It looks like that we are in a position where these are weakening. These storms are not getting stronger. They look to be getting a little bit weaker. Still going to watch this one that looks nasty moving through Elkin. It would be heading toward Mount Airy again. So you're going to get round 2. Let's hope it's not a tornado warning again, but it might be a round 2 storm, downpour, whatever you'd like to call it, something to keep an eye on. And if you do live in Patrick County, as we've said, that warning does continue. It's going to follow right up Ararat. They'll probably extend that going up closer to Highway 58 because there is still some rotation, in fact, quite a bit of it right there. That's your storm rotation. So this is the strongest storm on the board. We see that happening. It's not going to hit Peters Creek, Patrick Springs. It's not going to hit you either. So it's really over Ararat at the moment right now, and that's it. That's it. So overall, things look to be weakening. I'll keep it on the wide view here, just so we can reiterate for folks that if you're in the Triad proper, you have no immediate threat whatsoever. There's no rain, there's no nothing. It's not even windy. It's fine. But these storms are out there. They're likely to stay there and not here. It's just not 100% certainty. But good news that these do appear to be weakening a little bit. Hopefully we can sound the all clear really within the next 20 minutes or longer. But I'm optimistic at this point that might be the case. Nonetheless, tornado warning continues another 10 or 12 minutes. Any more questions from the Facebook crowd, Chad?
Tim, I'm wondering, so you see in your legend there that you have a hail size indicator.
Sure, yeah.
First of all, any idea whether there is hail in this storm? And second of all, if not, why not?
Very good question, excellent question. And we have sort of a tool that we use called hail tracking, which it uses a couple algorithms to see within the storm and if it might have been spitting out any hail. I'm looping this back several hours and we haven't seen any of that present in the storms. So what creates hail in the first place? You need a lot of really intense upward motion. Thunderstorm clouds are super, super tall. In fact, you see pictures of these cumulonimbus clouds. They're 30, 40, 50,000 feet tall on the big ones. These storms have been pretty shallow. In fact, what we can do right now, since Chad asked this question, we can take a slice, okay? So what we're going to do, what I mean by that, we're going to do a volume scan of the storm. I'm explaining it terribly. But what
You're doing great.
What we're going to do is we're going to draw a line, and then it's going to look really cool for a second. You see that? So what it's doing is it's showing me how tall the storm system is. And why does that matter? Well, it's actually a pretty short thunderstorm. So it's only about 10,000 feet tall. I know that sounds impressive, but about 30,000 feet would be average for a severe thunderstorm. And what we're looking at in here, these are what we call updrafts. When the air is going up and then it's going down. When the air is going up really fast and the cloud gets really tall, you can grow ice balls in that part of the thunderstorm cloud. And ice balls weigh. They have mass, of course, and they can actually get quite heavy. So what happens is if you have a really intense updraft or rising air, you're literally just suspending it. Like a trick where you have air blowing up and you're bouncing a ping pong ball on top. That's what's happening. So those hailstones can be suspended as long as there's really intense upward motion of the air to support that. Now, the more intense it is, the larger those hailstones can grow because water droplets are getting deposited on them. They're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So in the worst thunderstorms that are super tall and have really strong upward wind, you can get baseball-sized hail, grapefruit-sized hail in the record books. This one is weak and it's shallow, and there's not a lot of upward air, and it's not that tall. So it's not even likely getting to the freezing point, which is why we are probably not having any nasty, nasty hail, or really any to speak of. So that's a long answer to explain why your car's going to be fine. There's no worry for hail right now. I am anxious, though. It looks like we've seen a cancellation of all tornado warnings. So let's just do a triple check here. We're with you anyway. It is 11:51 in the evening. This storm, no tornado warning. This one, no tornado warning. That one, no tornado warning. All of them are still spinning a little bit, not a lot, but there is a little rotation. I'm just going to triple check here. It does appear like we're okay at the moment. So all news is good news. Chad, you don't have anything else that you've seen that's noteworthy to pass along to our folks?
No, someone just was wondering whether a tornado has been spotted at this point. The simple answer is probably no, but feel free to elaborate.
No. And if so, we haven't heard about it. We haven't heard about it, and we have been checking too. So we've been asking and calling around and working some contacts, but no bad news. In fact, let me just do one more thing for housekeeping before we let you go, and we probably will let you go here shortly. I'm loading up the National Weather Service storm reports right now. This is the funnel cloud that we saw the picture of earlier today that our viewer made it on this map because they sent us that photo. But otherwise, nothing happening. So these storms are rotating a lot, as I said before. Just because it's spinning like a top doesn't mean it's necessarily dropping to the ground, and there are false alarms, but it's the best we can do. If you see a storm spinning that much overhead on a favorable day, you have to be safe, you have to be cautious, and that's what we're seeing. Hopefully no actual tornadoes that did touch down. Haven't heard about it yet. I would say probably not, but hopefully that continues to be the case. Still be alert in these areas. Your watch continues another 10 minutes or so, but these are generally weakening, not strengthening, and hopefully we can sound the all clear for everybody in about half an hour.
All right, Tim.
Nope, okay. So,
all right.
This is why we stretch just a little bit. Remember that one that we were cutting the nice slice of? We don't need to laugh about this. This is serious stuff, but we do have a tornado warning again. Control room, newsroom, we got a new one here. This is tornado warning number 2 for Surry County. This is not a new storm. This is the one that we first brought you earlier at the top of the hour. This is the one that was prompted for Wilkes County earlier on. And indeed, there is better rotation now. I mentioned just a second ago, I said, if you're in Elkin, there's no warning, but I would be in my safe spot. They agree. So let's take a little bit of a closer look. It has a nasty sort of feel. If we zoom in there, there's that flat end of the system. I'm going to pause it now. So in Elkin itself, it's already gone through. There's no sense warning you, but we're already past here going toward, I guess it's called Little Richmond. Highways affected would be Highway 268 near Birch, Little Richmond, hilly areas, mountainous areas here. We're all just basically to the east of I-77. Just east of I-77, approaching Highway 601, maybe affecting Dobson shortly. But if we go back a couple of frames, you'll see the motion. Just about like that. So yeah, let's put a track on this. I'm gonna let me read the warning, I should say. It should also be 45 miles per hour. Indeed, yes it is, 45 miles per hour to the north. Could affect Elkin, Fairview, Jonesville, Dobson, Crutchfield, and Birch. Crutchfield and Birch. So let's zoom in. We're gonna make a track on this for you. Here's some ideas. Surry County Community College, that's in about 10 minutes. Dobson around 12:04. I think it'll pass south of Dobson, but if it were to get up your way, it would be around 12:04. Oh, Blackwater 12:08 and 12:11 for White Plains. So there are some estimates on the screen. Haven't really looked at the velocity yet. Let's do that. This looks better. Or I should say worse. It looks more impressive than it had a minute ago. There is that spinning. Let me switch to the more palatable view, and there it is. So this is your tornado potential right now. Looks more concerning than it did in Wilkes County at the top of the hour. So this continues now. It is for Surry County. Is it also for Yadkin? I guess it is, yeah. So Yadkin technically in this warning. I will say I'm not worried about you though, because if you're in Boonville, if you're actually south, the tornado itself is already north of the river there, so we're okay. But there's your swirl, that's your rotation. This continues now. And we're going to keep this going. How long does it go? 12:45?
I think 12:15.
12:15, sorry about that. A couple different storms. 12:15, so this is going to be a 20-minute tornado warning for now. There is your rotation. I'm actually going to put a tweet out on this. Chad, if you have any comments that you're seeing folks make and want to pass along, feel free. We can talk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah, no worries, Tim. So something that I have been monitoring today, really through the entirety of this storm, because usually when we see powerful storms like this, power outages are really the first indicator that there is going to be some sort of damage. You know, the power lines in your neighborhood, the power poles, they tend to come down when a car hits it or a tree falls on it, and so but. Surprisingly, we haven't seen any power outages at all today. So I'm looking at a little map here from Duke Energy, and really there are 2 outages in all of the triad, and they're not related to this storm. So it's actually very impressive that some of these storms seem so powerful, and yet there aren't any power outages. So I'm just kind of impressed to see this. We have some people in the newsroom who are continuing to make phone calls to some of the local 911 call centers to see whether they're dealing with any sort of emergencies, or police departments, even our weather spotters. Tim, I love that you all have the Weather Spotter Network, because sometimes those are our best eyes and ears for our area that kind of spread across our entire area. And at last check, the folks in Surry County said they hadn't seen or heard of any sort of damage out there, which obviously is great news. But Tim, I have a question for you. So before this this turned into a tornado warning, I mean, just minutes before, it seemed like a pretty non-severe storm. At this hour of the day, what is it that strengthens storms? Because I always thought it was the heating of the day that was the fuel for these storms. Obviously, we don't have the sun heating up the earth right now. So what is it that made this storm stronger?
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It is not the heating of the day that's fueling this storm because it's not sunny anymore. What's doing it, Chad, is, remember before we were showing the cold front and we were showing that wind direction pushing our way. We are getting into the spring now where the sun can warm you up pretty good. But by and large, in the winter and in the cooler months, if you have a warm day, it's not just because it's really sunny, it's because you're bringing that warm air in from somewhere else. And so what we saw tonight and what we're seeing still is those winds bringing in warmth and humidity. It was not as humid this morning as it is right now. Part of that's because we're importing a lot of that warm air up and down the East Coast. So these storms are really just fueling themselves off of the existing heat and the existing humidity that continues to get pumped in. And that's why, I hope we don't have this concern for the rest of the triad, but there's nothing special about Surry County right now that we don't also see in the triad. Notice how warm it is. See, we're close to 70 right now. Now, there are no storms here, and we hope that's true for the rest of the night, but it's warm and it's muggy, and if we had those storms overhead, they could probably survive very well at the moment. What we don't have, it's kind of like if you go ahead and you just pour gasoline, over your fire pit. You're still not going to get a fire unless something happens. That could be a lightning strike, it could be you putting a match in there, it could be any number of things, but you need that spark. And so right now we don't have any sparks in the triad. We have some fuel, but over the foothills they've had that spark, and it's really, I think, the cold front that's getting closer to them, and also that combination of the geography helping them out with that extra wind flow as well. But I'll put the tornado warning back on here for a second.
Is it possible to know how long this threat could continue into the night?
Yes, I tend to think, based on what we've seen, and we can really quickly, let me go back and do about a 3-hour loop. Sometimes the best way to learn about the weather is to go look at a big view and speed it up.
I always thought the best way to learn about the weather was talk to you.
That's what Chad does in the commercial breaks, everybody. So if we look back, notice how busy it was. You see that? This is a couple hours ago. Notice how it's really fizzling out. I know that's not our area, but we still care about it. This is a trend of weakening, not to zero, not to nothing. Obviously, we're dealing with tornado warnings, but a couple of hours ago, people in Morganton were in our position, where they had a warning and then they had another one and another one. They're gone now, and the storms are weakening a little bit. Not to nothing, but they're getting less. And so now that we're at this late hour, we do have a little downpour moving into Wilkes. Hopefully that's nothing. This one had weakened and now it's come back. So we're going to continue to track that. But the overall trend, even though we still have this tornado warning, is for weakening. And so I would expect within the next 30 minutes, we're in good shape. Hopefully. Not 100% sure, but that seems likely to me based on the trends. By the way, if this does hold together, it's passing just south of Dobson. Looking down the road, there's Mount Airy, Pilot Mountain's right here. You can see Pilot Mountain State Park, that big dark green blob, those are the trees. That's Pilot, and then here's 52. That area right south of Mount Airy, you know, the north side of town was that warning just a minute ago. If this holds together, we might talk about south side of Mount Airy within, I guess it would be about 15, 20 minutes if we track it. It would be about 12, 15, it's 15 minutes away. And that would be the expiration of the warning, so they would need to issue another one at that point. But yeah, still following it in the same area right now. Right past Elkin, right over Highway 268. It's an area called Little Richmond. I'm not familiar with that spot, but if you are, that's what my system is calling it. Highway 268, right where it intersects with Highway 601.
Do the storms, I mean, when they cross the mountains, or at least when they get close to the mountains, do the mountains do anything to weaken them?
A lot of times tornadoes, Chad, are really picky. So they want a specific set of winds, a specific set of conditions that don't want to be disturbed. If you had a big and strong tornado that was moving into some new geography or certainly some tall mountains, there's nothing magical about mountains that would rip it apart. But mountains just being there, it's like placing a rock or two in a stream. It diverts the water in different ways, it changes the flow. Same thing with air and with wind, like wind going around city buildings, it changes that motion. And so a mountain or a hill or a range of mountains certainly can have a big impact on a storm. So often what you see is they do actually weaken rather than strengthen when they move into some geography. We don't have any of that right here. So they would be moving basically into more flat areas, although this is somewhat hilly. It would probably get a little less hilly if you drew a topographic map here for that part of Surry County. But safe spot, south of Dobson, north of Little Richmond here, right along Highway 601. This goes for about 15 more minutes, it would seem.
Tim, the track of these storms, it seems that it would play into the theory that some people have that tornadoes can't hit urban areas. But we've seen that that's not true.
It's not true at all. No, it really isn't. And you know, all I would say to you is Greensboro 2018 or yesterday, New Orleans, center of town. I mean, not the downtown, but right close to it. There's nothing magical about urban areas. The only fact of the matter is that if you throw a dart at the map of the United States, you're only going to hit an urban area, gosh, I don't know, 1 out of 10 times. Most areas are rural. Most areas are forested or whatever. Even if you just drive around the outskirts of Guilford County, there's more fields than not, right? That's just the way it is. So that's a myth for sure. We certainly dealt with that in our community, and we don't want that to happen again. But this is more of a rural area too. Looks like Dobson lucking out a little bit. Let's give you the latest scan. Let me pause it.
While you're doing that, Tim, we did hear from the newsroom, one of our coworkers talked to someone in Wilkes County, and
Good.
They said that there are some trees and power lines down there.
Really?
So
Okay.
I'm looking at the Duke Energy outage map right now, and I still don't see any outages there. So it's possible that maybe this is a little delayed, this website, but someone from Wilkes County did tell us that there are some trees and power lines down.
I wonder, and this might be a follow-up for them, Chad, I wonder if we have any locations for that, if it would maybe be, because we were seeing mostly southeast of Wilkesboro
Right.
earlier, near Boomer, and then closer to the Wilkesboro Speedway as well.
Well, I'm sure they're listening to us right now. So if you do
Yeah.
hear us, please find out if you can see if there's I guess a more direct location.
But truly, I mean, the reason that's significant is because we haven't even heard of any damage all day, and this is our 4th tornado warning. So that would at least stand to reason that something is happening out there. We're not just telling you about rotation, but there could actually be some storms that are putting down some nastiness. This thing has continued to evolve a little bit. It's not getting stronger. If we go back a couple of frames, this is a couple frames ago. Let me zoom in so you can see above the super. So that's a couple frames ago. This is around midnight, so that's about 5 minutes. Over 5 minutes, it goes from looking like that to looking like that. All you're looking at is contrast. You just want to see the contrast. So I'll switch to that color table. See how it's a little stronger back here? Now it's a little bit weaker. Not much, but it's enough to not make me think that it's strengthening. If anything, it's probably weakening a little bit, still enough to be concerned. And Yadkin County, you've been canceled out of that. We told you that a couple of minutes ago. But that rotation is still happening right along Highway 268 and Highway 601 in Surry County. Mount Airy, I would like you to still be watching this. If you have friends, family in Mount Airy, let them know there's a possible tornado moving their general direction. It's probably going to stay south of Mount Airy. But things can happen, there's margin for error, all of those things. It's most likely going to take a track just like this. But if it veers a little bit, that would put parts of Mount Airy at risk. And also, you know, I guess it's not Pilot Mountain anymore, but it's north of there. White Plains, Boones Hill, right where the interstate breaks off from 52. So it becomes Andy Griffith Parkway going into Mount Airy, right where the interstate breaks off. So that's the spot, that's what we're watching. And that storm is getting closer, as we see.
It looks like the cell is moving pretty fast. Is that good or bad?
It depends. So the bad news is you don't have as much time to prepare or to get warned about it. The good news, we already have a warning and we're already telling you, get to your safe spot. The good news is it's not going to last that long. So in about 15, 20 minutes, it'll already be close to out of the county. I mean, let's put a track on this thing as it's going along. And it's possible it might clip Westfield farther down the line. This is wider than it needs to be, but Westfield, that would be around 12:20. That's just 15 minutes from now. It's already going to be over there. And then Ararat, remember that? We were just mentioning it for the last one. That's up into Patrick County, Virginia. That's even just by the bottom of the hour. So we're only talking about 20 to 30 more minutes of this storm, and the warning itself only has about 8 more minutes. You see the storm's almost already out of it at this point.
Is this system dropping a lot of rain? I mean, are there concerns for flash flooding at all?
There has been some flooding reported in the southern mountains. There's that rotation again. Most people have gotten hardly any rain or no rain this afternoon and this evening. We all had rain earlier today. This line of storms, though, has really been moving over the same spot. So as we mentioned before, this is a several-hour loop here. Notice how that line of storms has only been going over the same spot. So they're all getting the same rain over and over again. And you're not seeing it over here. So that we call that as training, where you're moving those storms over the same areas, and it can lead to some impressive rainfall totals. There are a couple of flash flood warnings out there at the moment. This is not what I wanted to load up for you because it's past midnight now, and it's just defaulted to today rather than yesterday. But if we start this at yesterday, we can give you a radar estimate of how much rain has fallen. And you can really see the winners and losers here. So this was your tornado warned storm earlier, right there. It went from Randolph County through Level Cross, Randleman, all the way up to Caswell. Very far south, hardly any rain. And then over here, this has been the big winners and losers of the rainfall battle. North of Greenville, South Carolina, 4, 5, 6 inches. That's a lot of rain. And elevation plays into this. The air rises more and it condenses more, so you get more rainfall. And that's what's happening. And we saw all of that rainfall for the southern Alps and the southern mountains and parts of Surry. You've seen upwards, I guess, now of probably 3 inches as an estimate anyway. About 2, 3, 4 inches. That's a lot of rain. And these are the same areas, Chad, that we were talking about just a day or two ago up in Low Gap of a forest fire and a wildfire. They put that under control, but this will put it under control as well. That should really help any dry conditions out there.
Let's just hope it doesn't cause mudslides when you get some of that rain, all that rain to fall on some of the burned areas.
It's true. I would be surprised if it did, but that's certainly something we've seen a lot of out that way in the past.
We did also hear, just getting word that we heard from somebody in Yadkin County, I believe Yadkin County Emergency Management, they have no reports of any damage at this hour. So that's good. That hasn't been one of the focused counties, but it's good to know that that they don't have it.
So this is new. We were talking about this. We were telling you if you're in Mount Airy, you might have to go to the safe spot again, and we do want you to do that right now. What they're doing here, this is not a new storm. It's just an extension of this tornado warning. So it was supposed to expire in 5 minutes. That doesn't seem like a good idea. So instead, we're going to keep this going until not 12:15. 12:45. This is not going to be until 12:45. This storm is moving too quickly. It will be out of there by that point, but it's still packing a punch. So just south of Mount Airy, there's the storm. Let's pause it again. You have a new tornado warning, okay? So that warning is going to continue. Just south of White Plains, it's going to pass just south of you. This is the rotational area. It's going to be moving right here over Interstate 74 in about 2 minutes, and then over Highway 52 in about 5 or 10 minutes, and then upwards it will go through the rest of Surry County. Stokes County, part of it is included, but it's just a tiny sliver, really. It's this chunk. So Westfield and this part of Stokes County, I'd be more concerned about Patrick County in Virginia going forward here. So we're not going to be looking at much of an issue. For Mount Airy, you want to be in your safe spot, especially on the south side of town, but you're likely going to see the worst of this passing to your south. The weather might not even get bad. We just like to play it safe when it comes to tornadoes. But this storm has been going a long ways. Remember, it was the initial one that moved through Wilkes County earlier. And at last check, we're still seeing another redevelopment. This might be one more for us to track tonight. You see that one over in Wilkes County? That's not done yet. It's not stronger right now, but it's still there. The good news is there's really not much behind it at this time. So hopefully before too long, we can say bye-bye to severe weather problems. But again, none of these are threatening the triad. These are all still for our foothill friends and family in Surry, Stokes, sometimes Wilkes, and sometimes Yadkin that we've been looking at this.
Tim, I'm sure some people are just waking up after getting a buzz on their phone that there is now a tornado warning in their area, wondering where should I go, what should I do. Just very quickly, I'm going to run through a couple of these suggestions from experts. The safest place to be is an underground shelter, a basement, or a safe room. If you don't have anywhere underground or a safe room, a small windowless interior room or hallway on the lowest level of a sturdy building is the safest alternative. Get low to the ground or the floor as much as possible and cover yourself. What do you think? What are you going to cover yourself with? Well, the suggestions are a mattress, maybe a sleeping bag, even a pillow. Really anything to soften the blow if something were to fall on you is your best bet. One that we talk about often, it seems ridiculous, but wear a helmet to protect your head. Mobile homes, they are not safe during tornadoes. Experts say that you should actually abandon mobile homes and go to the nearest sturdy building or shelter immediately. If you're caught outdoors, seek shelter in a basement, a shelter, or a sturdy building. If you cannot quickly walk to a shelter, immediately get into a vehicle, buckle your seatbelt, and try to drive to the closest sturdy shelter. Another suggestion, if flying debris occurs while you're driving, pull over and park. Now you have the following options as a last resort. You can stay in your vehicle with the seatbelt on. You can put your head down below the windows, covering with your hands and a blanket if possible. Now, if you can safely get noticeably lower than the level of the roadway, exit your car and lie in that area, covering your head with your hands. Obviously, none of these scenarios are enjoyable. None of these are going to be fun, but they are your best option if you are in this tornado warned area. I know Tim would agree with me that if you are in this area, you need to do one of those things immediately.
Absolutely. We say it all the time, Chad. You have to know, and the best way to do that is having that plan beforehand. So if you and your family don't have a tornado plan, this is not affecting your area or something like that, this is a reminder you got to do that. This is not the only night of the spring that we're going to be tracking possible tornadoes in the Piedmont. every year we do it multiple times. This is just the fact of our climate. Let me show you the futurecast and what it has to say about the next couple of hours. Again, I told you this has been bad. This is how bad it's been. It literally says nothing is happening overnight. So I don't know how much I trust that opinion. Going into tomorrow, we will have some rain in the morning, mostly east of Greensboro. By the afternoon, we're doing better. But there could still be some clouds around. So tomorrow is not a blue sky, pretty day of weather by any means. And just for kicks here to show the 7-day forecast, we are really going to be looking at cooler weather, drier weather, and even breezy and chilly weather. Another windy weekend is coming our way. Of course, we have a tornado warning for Mount Airy. We want to show this to you. Let me go back to our latest live radar, which has been busy, all for the same areas in our foothill communities. So looking back at this, these are very small storms. This is a teeny tiny tornado warning. It's really bearing down right now on Interstate 74, Highway 52. So like we were saying, yes, Mount Airy, you are in this, we call it a polygon. It's just a box, but it's a multi-shaped box, the red one. You're within those boundaries. So you should be taking the storm seriously, but it truly does not look to me to be coming anywhere close to downtown Mount Airy. So you should be good from this, but it is going to be on the south side. Let's call out some more roads, maybe some neighborhoods. We're looking at Old 52, if you're familiar, that's the one that goes parallel to Highway 52. Reeves Mill Road, Chestnut Ridge Road, Holly Springs Road, then Howell Road, Cook School Road, and eventually Highway 89 near Westfield. So if we put another track on this, again, not hitting Mount Airy downtown, but it would be going in this general direction very quickly, very, very quickly. So Mount Airy, Surry County Airport is right there. Sheltontown, Westfield School, all those areas, really, like I said, in the next 10 minutes. This is not a 12:45 tornado warning. I just simply don't agree with that. I don't think we're going to be here another half hour watching this warning, but this is one that will be affecting Surry County certainly over the next 20 minutes or 15 minutes or so. It's shorter rather than longer because it's moving so quickly, which we've seen.
Tim, why is it that, or I guess what controls the speed of which the storm moves?
It really has mostly to do with the flow of the wind overall. And I'm not talking about the wind on the ground necessarily, but more so, we would call it the low-level jet stream, right? So if we sent a weather balloon up in the air today and it rises, as tall as that cloud was, we were looking earlier, it's about 10 or 20,000 feet tall. Once that balloon gets up to that level, it's going to be moving at this speed, which today looks to be about 45 to 50 miles per hour or so. It's the wind flow, basically, that controls that. And that's that storm. Like I said, this is moving very, very quickly. Mount Airy, almost in the clear. You've been trimmed out.
Some people have been wondering about the triad proper and whether they should be concerned at all.
I'm getting more and more encouraged that if you live in the triad proper, you can probably rest easy. I really don't say that lightly. I think we're in very good shape to not have to worry about storms in Greensboro, High Point, or Winston-Salem over the next couple of hours. Still, you're foolish not to go to bed with the phone close by. That is the safest thing to do on a night like this. Keep that emergency alert turned on. I know it might be annoying, you might get other notifications, but you want that to be on your phone and you want it to be able to buzz and wake you up, just to be on the safe side. But I think the triad's good at this point. These storms are not holding their strength very well. Even this one with the warning looks to be weakening a little bit, not getting stronger. Same thing with that Wilkes County one. We're still keeping an eye on it, but I'm feeling pretty good about both of them. Let's go back to the Surry County area. Again, it moves very fast now, so it's not wasting any time. There we go, more data. This is weaker. So this is weaker rotation now. It's still there, but it's not as strong, which is encouraging to me. It was a little tighter before, now it's a little bit weaker. It is going to be passing pretty close to Westfield. So Highway 89 takes you from Mount Airy to Westfield, and then you can ride it over closer to Hanging Rock. Hanging Rock's right over there. That's Hanging Rock State Park. There's Westfield. There's Highway 103, Highway 89. We're talking about this storm. That's your rotation, which, as we've noted, is not that strong anymore. It's moving this way. And then it'll go probably to Patrick County. Okay, so that'll be what we watch at the end of things here. But that's it. Those are the only storms left on radar, just these two little guys, and that's all we're seeing. This one, not a concern yet, and we hope not.
Tim, do storms always rotate in a counterclockwise motion?
They do in our hemisphere. So in the northern hemisphere, it's always counterclockwise. In the southern hemisphere, it's always clockwise. That's certainly true for hurricanes and low pressure areas and all those things. Tornadoes, it's almost always true. There have been some documented cases where a tornado, which in the scale of weather is like a tiny little needle on the scale, so small, it can occasionally spin the opposite way if the conditions are right. It's not common, but we have something called the Coriolis force in weather and in the world, that the way that we spin in our hemisphere, the air is diverted in a certain way to the right, and so it's tending to be a counterclockwise motion. The other opposite is true on the flip side in the southern hemisphere. So the answer is almost always.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. But there's your storm. I'm going to put this back on there, and we're just going to leave it up here until 12:45. And as I said, we're not going to be on this for another 20 minutes, it doesn't look like. It's already passed over Highway 52 just recently. And actually, I just texted Gerald Hicks again. Okay. No, there's nothing happening as far as damage reports, power outages. It seems like all is still good as far as Surry County damage as of last check. That's really just 2 minutes ago. So hopefully that is going to hold true for the rest of the storm, and it looks like it will. It doesn't look like it's very intense any longer. This is getting weaker and weaker by the minute, so let me just double check to make sure. It looks like it's not going to get much stronger. It doesn't look like it's going to get stronger, probably weaker, I would say.
Tim, you'd said a couple of times that you doubt that this will last until 12:45. If that's the case, why is it that the National Weather Service would make that, what did you call it, shape?
Polygon.
The polygon. Why would the National Weather Service make the polygon so big if they also know that it's not necessary?
It's a good question, and it's not one that I'm going to answer, I don't think. I would just say it's probably,
like, just to be safe.
It's certainly a caution. I could see the advantage of not giving you an all clear time, and honestly, they don't want to redraw these multiple times either.
Right.
But I wouldn't speak for them on that. I will say I've actually gone to the National Weather Service in both Roanoke, Virginia, and also the one in Raleigh, and gone through a simulation where you draw these things in real time. And it can be very difficult. They're not drawing one or two tonight. Sometimes it's one or two in a row, and that can be a stress test, if you will, a tough one for forecasters to handle. And so I can understand no real harm if there's, they cancel it early, let's say. And they will. I'm sure they would drop this if the storm is here at 12:35. This is going to be dropped.
Someone is asking on the Facebook feed, will there be storms in the morning, as in like morning commute, that time frame? That's
a really good question. So we can show you our latest futurecast here as that tornado warning continues. We're going to be going along here in the frame. Scattered showers possible the rest of the night. We haven't really seen that yet. We haven't seen many in the triad, but this will be 6 a.m. Notice there's not much happening locally, but there could be a little bit of some scattered showers. But take a look. Eating my words there, by 7 and 8 and 9, we are seeing some showers. Now, for tomorrow, there is in fact another risk of storms, but it's not really so much for us. So as we talk about Thursday, which truly is now today, we're looking at more of a risk for Raleigh and points eastward. So we could talk about those spots as well. Let me just zoom out a little bit. So this would be your severe thunderstorm risk for, is it Friday or Thursday? Tomorrow's Thursday.
Which tomorrow?
Tomorrow. Either way, the risk for tomorrow, my graphic is wrong. Just ignore that. But this is your risk for Thursday of severe storms. Basically from Highway 1 from Raleigh all the way southward, we're looking at an eastern Carolina threat of storms for tomorrow. For us, we could see some scattered showers in the morning. That's basically going to be the cold front moving through. So we have a little ways to go. But in the here and now, we're not seeing anything super concerning for the triad. And boy, oh boy, this might be it, folks. We're looking at the tornado warning that has been dropped, it appears. Let me do some triple checking here. But it looks like Well, I don't know why it's not showing up any longer for me. I don't see an official cancellation from the Weather Service, but it does appear that that tornado warning has been dropped for Surry County. I'm not seeing it any longer. It does not look like it's capable of producing a tornado anymore. Just going to ask our partners here. Oh, it looks like it was expired. Yep. So it looks like it was expired. No, I'm getting conflicting information here. I'm just going to stay with this a couple more minutes until it gets out of Surry here, but it looks like this is out of here. So right near Westfield, that storm's still putting down some heavy rain, but it's not circulating very well anymore. So bottom line, the tornado warnings are being dropped. They're no longer showing up. That's good news for our foothill friends and neighbors, and it does appear that we're not really under any big threats from either one of these downpours. They're truly just downpours at this point. So right now, no active tornado warnings. I'll be diligently watching these kind of behind the scenes over the next 15 to 20 minutes just to make sure, but it does look like we are done with tornado warnings for now. Hopefully that remains the case. Remember, if you're going to bed, just have your phone close by, have the alerts turned on, and that way if you do get that notice, you can go to your safe spot. So Chad, any final words here?
Yeah, just Tim, thank you so much for keeping us in the loop over the past couple of hours. Again, as Tim said, our app is really the best way to be updated and informed in case something were to pop up, either today or anytime in the future. It's free in your Google and Apple stores. So we're going to go back to Colbert now. Have a good night.
WFMY News 2 at 11 is brought to you by Cox Toyota in Burlington. Take a test drive and you could win $1,000. So before you buy, give Cox a try.